You know, there are mornings when I wake up, make myself a cup of hot tea, and sit quietly on the porch. The sky is not yet fully lit, the breeze is gentle, and there is a silence I deeply cherish. At the age of 60, I've learned something important. Health doesn't come from grand decisions, but from small moments, repeated every single day. I remember clearly. A few years ago, one of my patients, Robert, 68 years old, walked into my office with trembling legs. He used to be a very strong man, spending his whole life working in construction. But that day, he sat down, looked at me, and said, "Doctor, I feel like I'm getting weaker every day. I just want to take a walk around my garden, and even that feels difficult now." I looked at him and saw the reflection of so many other patients and even a little bit of myself. After 60, our muscles begin to fade, a condition medicine calls sarcopenia. It doesn't arrive loudly or violently. It comes quietly, like an uninvited guest. You notice it when climbing the stairs feels heavier, when tying your shoes takes longer, or when a grocery bag suddenly feels like a stone. Have you ever felt that way? One day, your body just doesn't respond the way it used to, and you think, maybe I'm just too old now. But let me tell you this, age is not the end. It's simply a reminder that we need to live differently. I've seen people in their 70s, even 80s, regain strength with just one small change, starting with breakfast. Let me tell you about the Japanese. I once had the chance to live in Kyoto for a short time, and the mornings there left a lasting impression on me. They don't rush with just a cup of coffee and a pastry on their way to work. Instead, they sit down, slowly, and begin their day with a balanced, nourishing meal, a warm bowl of miso soup, a few slices of grilled fish, some fermented soybeans. It sounds simple, but these foods have nourished their bodies and kept them strong well into their 80s and 90s. I remember once, an elderly woman in Japan told me, "We don't eat to be full. We eat so the body feels grateful." That sentence has stayed with me to this day, because after 60, meals are not just about nutrition, they are a way of speaking to our bodies, a message we send to ourselves: I still matter. I still want to live healthy. Modern science has confirmed this as well. A protein-rich breakfast can slow down muscle loss, support memory, and even stabilize mood. But I love how the Japanese describe it: shakuiku, a philosophy of eating with balance and awareness. It's not about counting every calorie, but about feeling each bite, knowing what your body needs, and responding with gratitude. Now I want you to imagine this. Tomorrow morning, instead of rushing with coffee on the road, you sit down and take a deep breath. In front of you is a warm bowl of soup, with soft tofu, fresh seaweed, and a simple boiled egg. You lift the spoon, letting the warmth spread through your body, and in that moment, your body is receiving a message: you can still be strong. You can still be renewed. Double quotes English for American audience. I saw this happen with one of my patients. Robert, the gentleman I mentioned earlier, wasn't convinced at first. He was used to his black coffee and toast every morning. But I told him, just try one small change, a breakfast with a little gentle protein. Think of it as a gift to yourself. A few months later, he came back. Same legs, but his steps were steadier. He looked at me, smiled, and said, "Doctor, it turns out I'm not too old to be strong again." You see, health doesn't come from something distant or complicated. It's right there, in what we choose each morning. Every glass of warm water, every gentle bowl of soup, every slow bite you take, all of it adds up to a stronger body and a brighter spirit. And that's why I'm here today, sharing this with you. Because I believe that whether you're 60, 70, or even older, you still have a new chapter to write. A chapter where you don't just exist, but truly live, with strength, freedom, and joy. There's something I've noticed very clearly, especially living here in America. Many of us treat breakfast like a formality, not as the foundation of our health. We often start the day with a strong coffee, a bit of sugar, maybe a sweet pastry, a donut, or a piece of buttered toast. It's quick, convenient, and gives us that temporary awake feeling. But then, by mid-morning, the energy crashes. You feel sluggish, irritable, unable to focus. And if you're over 60, your body struggles even more with those ups and downs. I've seen so many patients come into my office, exhausted, saying, "Doctor, I just don't have the energy to do anything. I just want to sit down and rest." The problem isn't just age. Part of the problem is right there in breakfast. Did you know that, according to studies, most Americans over 50 consume way too much sugar and empty carbs in the morning, while being severely low on protein? After age 60, Your body needs protein more than ever to prevent muscle loss, to keep your brain fueled, and to keep your blood sugar from swinging wildly. Another patient of mine, Linda, age 74, came in and told me, "Doctor, I don't know why, but by 10 a.m. I feel completely drained. More coffee doesn't help." When I asked her what she had for breakfast, she said, "A sweet pastry and a cup of tea. That's it." I explained to her that it was like pouring a little gasoline on an old car. It burns hot and fast, but runs out almost instantly. I suggested she try something different. Instead of pastries, start with a boiled egg, some slow-cooked oats with almond milk, and a sprinkle of walnuts. At first, she was skeptical, but a few weeks later, when she came back for a follow-up, she said, "Doctor, I've never felt so clear-headed in the mornings. I even walked an extra lap around the park. That reminded me of something important. The human body is remarkably wise. If you treat it with respect, it will find a way to respond." English for American audience. Have you ever asked yourself, what did I give my body this morning? Not just to fill your stomach, but to build strength for the day ahead. I once read an interesting study from the National Institute on Aging. Older adults who eat at least 25 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast are more likely to maintain muscle and mobility compared to those who start their day with sugary, low-nutrient foods. And you don't need to turn breakfast into a grand feast. Just something simple, a smoothie with Greek yogurt and chia seeds, or a slice of whole grain toast with natural peanut butter and an egg. These small choices, added up over the years, will help you walk steadier, climb stairs more easily, and most importantly feel strong again. I want you to imagine this. You're 70, stepping into your garden, bending down to care for your plants, and realizing you can stand back up without needing help. Or you lift your grandchild, and your arms are still strong enough to hold them close. Those moments, believe me, are worth more than any number on a lab test. Health isn't just what shows up in lab results. It lives in every movement, every smile, and in the simple feeling that you are still in control of your own life. Once, I asked an 82-year-old man who still goes to the gym 3 times a week, "What's your secret?" He laughed and said simply, "I just don't let a single day pass without caring for myself. Every morning, I eat to live, not just to get by." And that's what I want to leave with you today. Caring for your body doesn't start with pills. It starts with the breakfast in front of you. Don't treat it as a formality. Treat it as a ritual, a promise to yourself. I will stay strong. I still have time to live fully. Have you ever asked yourself, is my breakfast today helping me live longer or just faster? If the answer doesn't satisfy you, maybe it's time for a change. And trust me, it is never too late to start. One thing I've realized after working with thousands of patients over 60 is this: health is not only in the body, but also in the spirit. You can eat well, exercise regularly, but if your heart feels tired and empty, you'll still feel weak. I remember one patient, James, 85 years old, a former math teacher. When I asked him what he wanted most at his age, he thought for a long while and then said, "I just hope that every morning, I have a reason to get out of bed. I want to feel like I still matter." That answer made me think deeply. Because you see, after a lifetime of family and work, many people, as they grow older, suddenly feel left behind. The children are grown, the job is gone, friends become fewer. And then there are mornings when you ask yourself, what am I living for now? English for American audience, but it's exactly in those moments that I believe we have the chance to rediscover new meaning in life. Growing older is not the ending, it's another chapter, where we are allowed to slow down and learn to enjoy the simplest things. One of my patients, Maria, 72, once shared that same feeling of emptiness. She said, "I spent my whole life caring for my husband and children. When they grew up, I didn't know who to live for anymore." I asked her, why not try living for yourself? At first, she laughed. Live for myself. I don't even know what I like, but little by little, she began to try. A gentle yoga class for seniors, a painting lesson she had dreamed of in her youth, a few healthy meals she prepared for herself. 6 months later, she came back smiling brightly. "Doctor, I feel like I'm 20 years younger." It turns out, living for myself is also a form of love. That made me realize, sometimes, the best medicine isn't written on a prescription, it's in how we allow ourselves to truly live. Have you ever felt empty, sitting alone in a quiet room, like the world had somehow left you behind? If you have, I want you to remember this. Your body and your soul have never abandoned you. They're only whispering, asking you to care, to love, and to listen again. Science supports this too. A study from Harvard found that people who maintain social connections, even just a small circle of friends, a book club, or simple chats with neighbors, live on average 7 to 10 years longer than those who are isolated. It's not the medicine, it's the connection, the friendship, and the sense of belonging that extend life. Another patient of mine, Robert, 76, once sighed, "Doctor, I spent half my life caring for my children and grandchildren. What good is it to start caring for myself now?" I looked at him and said, "It matters. Because when you're healthy, you don't just live longer, you live happier. For yourself, and for the ones you love." And that's the philosophy I want to share with you today. Aging is not a sentence, it's an opportunity. An opportunity to live more authentically, more deeply, and more closely connected to yourself. I want you to imagine this. Every morning when you wake up, you have a small ritual just for yourself, maybe a warm cup of tea in silence, a few minutes writing down 3 things you're grateful for, or simply a deep breath, feeling your lungs still full of life. Those little acts, repeated over the years, become the foundation that reminds you you still matter, you still have value. And remember, the meaning of life is not something distant. It can be right there in tending your garden, cooking a meal for yourself, or smiling during a conversation with your grandchild. Aging, as I see it, is not a chain that binds you. It's simply a reminder that it's time to slow down, live with intention, and savor the greatest gift of all, the present moment. You see, we've talked about the body, about diet, about the spirit, but there's one thing I want to emphasize one last time. You are never too old to begin again. English for American audience. I once met an 88-year-old woman named Helen. When she came to my clinic, she leaned on a cane, her steps unsteady. She said, "Doctor, I think my body can't be saved anymore. I'll just take each day as it comes." But I disagreed. I told her, "Helen, every day you wake up means your body is still giving you a chance. All you need is to take it." I guided her through very small steps, replacing her 3 cups of strong coffee with green tea, standing up to stretch for a few minutes instead of sitting all morning. That was it. 6 months later, she returned. No, she wasn't running marathons, but she walked steadier, felt less pain, and most importantly, she said, "I realized I can still get better." Have you ever thought, like Helen, that at this age, every effort is pointless? If so, remember her. And remember this. Sometimes strength doesn't come from how fast you change, but from the simple fact that you choose to keep moving forward. I also remember a man named Samuel, 90 years old. He had been a carpenter his whole life. After his wife passed, he lived alone and spoke to very few people. He began to feel useless. One day he told me, "I don't know what's the point of living any longer." I looked at him and asked, "Do you still have these hands?" He nodded. I said, "Then why not use those hands to create new joy?" So he began making small wooden gifts for his neighbors, pretty chairs, little boxes. A year later, when I visited, he pointed to a chair on his porch and said, "Doctor, because of this, I have a reason to wake up every morning." You see, meaning is not something distant. It can come from a cup of tea, a song, a short conversation, or a simple piece of woodworking. The question is, are you giving yourself the chance to find it again? I want you to ask yourself right now, today, what have I done to remind myself that I still matter? Maybe it's just a smile in the mirror. Maybe it's the fact that you're sitting here, listening to this story. And that, in itself, is already a step. Science can give us numbers: 30% lower risk of dementia, 7 extra years of life expectancy if you stay active. But to me, those numbers are just the surface. What truly matters is what I witness every day in medicine: the light in a patient's eyes when they rediscover hope, the smile when they realize their body still responds, still has life. I've been a doctor for over 30 years, and I can say this with complete sincerity: no patient is ever too old to get better. No body ever fully gives up, and no soul is beyond healing. So if you're hearing me right now, take this as a gentle reminder: age does not define you. It is not a sentence, and it is not the end. It is simply the next chapter where you can live slower, deeper, and more fully. My name is Dr. John Anderson. My work is not just about writing prescriptions, it's about walking beside you, reminding you that you are still worthy of love, still valuable, and still capable of finding joy. If these words touch you, please subscribe to this channel so we can continue this journey together, because I believe the path to health and balance is never one we take alone. And before we end, I want you to carry this gentle reminder: never believe you are too old to love. too old to reach out, and too old to live fully.